We're out there.
Hey,
what's happening, Playmakers? Welcome in. It is Wednesday. You know what we do here. What's up, Blake? How you doing, brother?
Not bad. What's going on?
Good, man. How's life? Everything's good?
Yeah.
Fine
No
as frog's
complaints.
hairs, my dad would say.
That's
It's one of
throwback.
his references. Mike, how are you?
Oh, just
What was
dandy.
the one I made
Look
earlier?
at you,
What was
so-
the one I made earlier? Oh, smell like a French whore.
Oh,
geez.
that's wow.
that one.
That's we're starting on a high note here.
I'm
we'll
digging it
we'll
right
end
now.
on a higher note, guys, because we've got a great lineup. Kory Waldron coming in from K-Wall Hoops from Off the Glass. Check out their website, Off the Glass, otgbasketball.com. We're going to talk a little Contender Pretender with him. We're going to review War Chest. Sounds like me after Taco Tuesday. War Chest. Just saying.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, heartburn, all that good stuff. Anyways.
I got it
We
now.
about ready,
All
Mike?
right.
What's
I'm-
going on here, brother?
We're pretty good, yeah.
All right.
All right, if you guys are ready, I'm going to start to play this bad boy.
Let's do it. Foul in, Playmakers. Share, like. Give us your comments, your questions. We're ready to go. Hello, Playmakers. What's happening? You didn't cut me off. Thank you, sir.
No.
It is Wednesday night, October 23rd, 2019. It is the Big Play Podcast. Foul on in, people. Thanks for taking some time to be with us on this crisp fall evening here in Cleveland, Ohio. It is turned from summer to winter in the last week.
Thank God.
Gotta love that. Anyways, I am your host, Big Play J. Follow me on Twitter at the Big Play J. The gentleman to my right, near, far, wherever you are, he will be your Big Play Podcast co-host.
That
He is
the
the
way it
connoisseur of Celine Dion concerts. He is Big Play Beats. What's going on, brother?
We did not wait a single second to get into that.
We did. My heart still goes on. The gentleman to my left.
Now I'm nervous.
Why?
Oh, it's coming. That's
Come
why.
on.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
He is my buddy. He is a morning person. My boy, Waking Blake. What's going on, brother?
That one's not
do
bad.
you like it better?
That one's better.
Okay, so power
I like that
rankings now. Waking Blake, Steak and what was it last week? Steak and Blake,
No.
Shaken Blake. Excuse me. We'll see. I spoiled next week's. There that goes. Anyways, we got a great show for you tonight. We've got a great lineup. As always, what are we going to do first? You know what we do. We talk to you about what is fueling our show this week, and it's brought to you by Saucy Brew Works, a great IPA. We're going to get into that. A little Contender Pretender NBA style. We're going to bring in Kory Waldron from Off the Glass. Looking forward to talking to him. It's been a while, about 8 months actually. Yeah. And then, of course, we're going to give you our Week 8 fantasy football locks. Very interesting time. A lot of folks on bye weeks right now. It's not too early to start thinking playoffs and some trades, so should be an interesting conversation. Hell no, hell yeah. We got to talk about Aaron Rodgers' MVP-like performance last week. We got to get into the Yanks and talk about what's going on with them. On deck, kind of a quiet week, but we got some sneaky good games in NCAA football and the NFL. And then closing arguments, our newest segment, if you will. We're going to bring you a point or reaction or just something that's kind of getting to us that we didn't get to talk about. Blake's got some very good thoughts
so
this week.
Excited for this one.
He is chomping at the bit, and I'm chomping at the bit to start. But before we start, let's find out what is fueling this week's show.
I forgot to do it.
Today's secret ingredient is
scallop, mushroom, pizza dough, hamburger.
Today's secret ingredient is
gentlemen, you know who this is from. It's from Saucy Brew Works. Little cheers there. This is War Chest. This is a hazy Imperial India Pale Ale. Delicious, smooth. It's 8%, guys. I'm very surprised by how smooth this is.
Yeah.
Wow.
For an APV of 8%. I
Admi-
know.
Admittedly.
Yeah.
Not an IPA guy.
Right.
Those of you that know me, not an IPA guy. This is actually really good. This is awesome.
Okay. Mike, thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah?
That's awesome. Yeah, that'll put a little hair on chest.
Yeah.
A little hair on your chest at 8%.
Yeah.
But I am a big fan of this.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah, hazy Imperial.
The hops in this one, Galaxy and Vic Secret. Vic Secret, your favorite hop, right, Blake?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm more of a Galaxy
My
guy,
second
but
favorite secret, though, his wife Victoria
Oh, wow.
takes the top spot.
Nice word.
Cousins, or what's the relationship
No, I said
there?
wife.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Anyways, it's no secret that we love Saucy Brew Works. It's no secret that you should grab a 4-pack. That's right. It comes in 4-packs. There's a good indicator of War Chest. Check them out. Check out their brew pub at Cleveland. Got one coming soon to Columbus, too. Check them out. Thank you, guys. Michael, give me a transition. Let's talk a little Pretender Contender. All right. And let's check the phone lines, Mike, and let's see if our guy is on there.
This is where I am definitely a little slower. There he is. Let me
There
bring
he
him in.
is. All right. So, guys, we are extremely happy to have on a gentleman we haven't spoken to in, God, quite some time, several seasons, it feels like, literally. That's our man, Kory Waldron. Check him out on Twitter at KWallHoops. Does a little bit of everything over at otgbasketball.com. You can find him on many of their podcasts, including one with our man Nick Fay, another guy we got to talk to here soon as well. That's the NBA outlet. Full Access Hoops does the social media over there too as well. Kory, what's going on, my man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Happy to be back on the pod. It's definitely been a couple months now.
It has been a minute, my friend. We're sitting here watching the Magic and Cavs, the Cavs coming back, if you will, down 71-62. Kory, I know it's early. You know, a lot of people kind of argue basketball season truly doesn't start till around the holidays, but what are you looking for in these early games? Kind of what has you excited about at this point in the NBA season?
I mean, we were I don't want to say gifted, but we were lucky enough to see so many star-level players move this offseason. So, like, the early part of the season, I'm just interested to see how some of these guys look in their new situations. Obviously, last night, seeing Kawhi in the Clippers uniform, seeing AD alongside LeBron James. Now tonight, we're getting to see 11 games of action, seeing Kyrie Irving's first night of basketball out in Brooklyn, seeing the Philadelphia 76ers new starting spot. For me, I'm just kind of looking to see how some of these new guys gel early on with their new teams.
Yeah, you mentioned the trades, Kory, and one of the biggest offseason plots that just went down here recently, of course, is the situation involving the Rockets GM Daryl Morey and his comments, of course, about China. Ultimately, how do you think this ends, Kory? Is he going to get fired? Is there any type of reprimand that's going to happen here within his organization or the NBA?
I mean, the one thing we can say is that since Daryl Morey tweeted that tweet and deleted the tweet within minutes, he has gone completely silent. There hasn't really been any word from him personally. It doesn't look like he's going to get fired. The Rockets are going to keep him as the GM. I know that Adam Silver doesn't even plan to really punish him because I know China wanted Daryl Morey removed. I know there was even rumblings and rumors that LeBron James had even voiced his frustration to Adam Silver about wanting there to be some severe punishment for Daryl Morey. It doesn't look like he's going to serve any major punishment. Maybe there's going to be a fine he has to pay behind the scenes. But Daryl Morey is going to get off relatively scot-free from what has turned into be a pretty bad situation for how much money the NBA has lost recently.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know obviously the NBA is the most global of sports. You know, you'd say the NFL is America's sport, really. But China's its biggest foreign market. How does this ultimately affect their business in China?
Well, you know, the thing is, you know, China kind of played their hand, right? That's when we had the Lakers and Nets out in China. They removed all the posters. There was no media allowed at the couple games we saw in China. So China played some of their hand. They cut a lot of their ties endorsement-wise to the NBA. But I don't think we're going to see like a complete separation between the NBA and China, because both of them have a profitable relationship. China doesn't want to lose that money. The NBA certainly doesn't want to lose that money. And the global impact the NBA is trying to make, obviously we saw them going to India as well this year. China is a big money maker for the NBA, for shoe companies as well, for a lot of these players. So the NBA is going to do whatever they can to fix the situation. Obviously, we've seen some fans at arenas try and voice their opinions on the Hong Kong situation by wearing shirts and posters. The NBA has already been adamant that they're really not allowing that to happen. They've been taking away signs, not trying to show fans wearing, Freedom for Hong Kong shirts. So the NBA is going to do whatever they can to protect the business avenue of the China relationship. It's going to get washed over, I believe, some point this year. We're not going to see a complete separation.
I gotcha. So looking forward to this season. So the Clippers and the Lakers NBA odds are fairly close. I think 7-2 and 4-1 respectively, with the Bucks coming in just after them at 6-1 odds. Vegas thinks there's a pretty big disparity between the teams in the East and the West. Do you recall a time, at least on the surface, that there's been such a perceived talent gap between the two?
If I'm being honest, the last 5-10 years, it's really been this separation, right? I mean, the Eastern Conference generally has one or two teams that you think can make it to the NBA Finals, whereas the Western Conference generally has, a handful of teams. And Vegas has been pretty much right on the money looking at the probability odds. I don't think it's really that odd or that different. The Western Conference is just a much deeper conference. There's just, the first 5 teams all really have contending opportunities, whereas in the East, you're really just looking at the Milwaukee Bucks and Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay. And guys, just again, we're talking with Kory Waldron over at OTG Basketball. You guys can follow him at KWallHoops. So, Kory, just another question. Is it truly that the East is that bad, or do you think that free agency has just positively affected the Western teams that much?
I don't think the Eastern Conference is that bad. I mean, the one good thing about the Eastern Conference is, some of the weaker teams, they're just rebuilding. And there are some fun rebuilding teams, Chicago Bulls, for example, the Atlanta Hawks. We're seeing the Orlando Magic finally take some steps forward in their rebuilding efforts. The Western Conference, the big thing about the Western Conference is they have, 4 teams in Cali. That makes an impact. The Los Angeles Lakers, big market. The Los Angeles Clippers, a big market. The Warriors have become a bigger market over the last several years. The Rockets are a bigger market. There's just a lot more, in my opinion, bigger market teams in the West, which is why you feel like stars tend to go out there more.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And kind of sticking with the, California teams, Steve Kerr was quoted yesterday. He said that Klay Thompson will likely be out all season. I personally think Steph's going to be on a warpath, just my personal opinion, but Vegas MVP odds have him at plus 550. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's just say this. Now that we know Klay Thompson's out for the season, the Warriors are going to rely so much on Stephen Curry. As you just mentioned, the odds show it. Curry really has to be the driving force for this Warriors team. I think back to the unanimous MVP season Curry had, a couple of years ago, where he was pretty much instant offense, had the ultimate green light. We're going to see that to a next level this year. Yes, D'Angelo Russell was a very good get for the Warriors. They're definitely going to need his offense. But the rest of that team, not so great, right? Not a lot of offensive weapons. Curry is going to have to shoot the ball, 20 to 30 times a game, more so than he's probably used to, especially, obviously, the last couple of years having Durant, having Thompson. Curry is going to be the number one option, and he's going to have to score, somewhere between 30 and 40 points on a night for this Warriors team to really be in games. They're going to be in trouble after they make the playoffs this year.
All right, Kory. You want to play a little contender pretender with us, my man. So the premise here is pretty simple. I'm going to give you a concept, a team, a player. You tell me if you have promise for them, if they're contender. If they're pretender, probably someone who's not going to live up to their billing this season. We'll give them a contender moniker. Zion Williamson, Kory, despite the fact he's going to be out about 6 to 8 weeks, it looks like. Rookie of the year, contender, pretender.
I'm going to say contender, even still. Now, I will say this rookie class is extremely deep. I think we're blessed this year with a lot of very good rookies. Kobe White from Chicago, I think, has a good chance. R.J. Barrett, John Morant. There's a lot of very good rookies this year. But Zion Williamson is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. 6'6", 285. There's obviously health concerns. The torn meniscus to start the year concerns me to a great deal. But if this guy is healthy, we saw the Pelicans last night. I actually really like what they got. They look like they're going to be an extremely fun team. They move the ball well. Zion, once he gets back, will benefit from the fact that he's on a very good team that's going to compete for a playoff spot early. So I think he's contending for a Rookie of the Year spot without a doubt.
Nice. Contender, pretender, Giannis, MVP again.
Contender, this is actually my pick to win MVP. I think Antetokounmpo repeats. The Milwaukee Bucks did lose Malcolm Brogdon, which I think is a pretty big blow for them offensively. Eric Bledsoe is going to miss some time as well to start this year. Antetokounmpo is going to have to be MVP ready early, and I think unlike last year where we saw him only average 30 minutes per game and still put up ridiculous stats, I think Antetokounmpo has to play more this year, and if he's playing more, you have to expect his numbers to rise. And I think we're going to see Antetokounmpo finally hitting three-point shots as well.
One team that it's kind of hard to make. I don't know what to make of this team right now. The Celtics, contender, pretender, the third best team in the East.
Pretender. I have not been on the Boston Celtics bandwagon. I do like to get a Kemba Walker. I think losing Al Horford, losing Kyrie Irving, getting Kemba Walker was big. Not a big fan of the contract. Jaylen Brown just got it all. That's a lot of money for a guy who has not yet proved himself. And they have a big issue at the center position. Interior defense is going to be an issue for the Boston Celtics. Enes Kanter, we know him to be a good rebounder, a good guy in the post, but not a very good defensive guy. I know there's a ton of hype around Taco Fall, but can we really expect him to be a worthwhile rotational player his rookie season? I'm not so sure. Daniel Tice coming off the bench. He hasn't really proven anything. Robert Williams, a.k.a. Time Lord. I think the Celtics are pretenders because I don't think interior defense, I don't think they have enough of it, which is going to be an issue for them going forward, especially against teams like Philly, even Detroit, the Pacers, guys that have very good centers.
Guys, we're talking with Kory Waldron from OTG Basketball. Follow him on Twitter at KWallHoops. That's 1L. And by the way, it's Kory. Not Korey. We want to correct that from earlier. How many times have you heard that, brother? It's like every week, right? You get something like that. Anyways. All right, contender, pretender. Yeah. Okay, contender, pretender, the Milwaukee Bucks as the East champs.
Contender. I really do think they're going to win it. Again, I have them winning 60 games again this year. They won 60 last year. I have concerns about the Philadelphia 76ers. I think defensively they're going to be a problem. Obviously, they're rolling out the tallest NBA lineup this year. Their shortest guy after we got the new height is still Josh Richardson at 6'6". They're just a tall team, but I think offensively they're going to struggle at times. Not a lot of three-point shooting. The Bucks' entire offensive system is based around pace, spacing the floor around Antetokounmpo. They still have a lot of shooters on that team. Antetokounmpo is still going to be the driving force, and they're bringing back mostly the same core, whereas Philadelphia has to try and integrate Al Horford. They have to give Tobias Harris a bigger role. What does Ben Simmons' offense look like? Does he get a jump shot? How does Josh Richardson look like? I just think there's more question marks around the Philadelphia 76ers than that of the Milwaukee Bucks.
All right, Kory, contender, pretender, the West Finals, all L.A.
Oh man, this is a tough one. So I'm actually going to say pretender.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
I think the Clippers do make it. I think what we saw last night. Obviously it's game one, so we're going to have some overreactions, right?
Sure.
But I liked what I saw from the Clippers. Defensively, they're going to be extremely good, and we didn't even get to see Paul George yet in that Clippers uniform. That's going to be a major piece. That's going to be a guy who gives them an additional 20 points per game while playing very good defense.
Yeah.
But now my one concern is with the Lakers is the bench. Danny Green had 28 points last night. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are not going to shoot that bad from the field. But this could be where we see LeBron finally take a step back in year 17. He may not be as good as he once was. Not saying that he's not going to be bad by any means, but I don't think he's going to be the same level of dominance, and that the role players for the Lakers, I'm just not sold on. Like a lot of Avery Bradley, a lot of, JaVale McGee, I'm just not so sold on it.
All right, contender, pretender, the Clippers are your 2019-2020 NBA champs.
I'm going with contender. I think it actually happens. I think Kawhi Leonard wins another NBA title with a different team in back-to-back years, which I was talking about this on my podcast the other day. Have we ever seen an NBA player win back-to-back titles on two different teams in consecutive years? I'm not so sure we've ever seen that. Like, Kawhi Leonard could be making history, and I think he does make history this year.
Do you think Steve Ballmer can handle an NBA title, Kory? He's going to go nuts, right?
I don't know if he can handle it, but I'm all ready for it.
I want
to see this man at the ultimate peak of excitement.
Pretty cool.
I want to see him at the parade.
Cool. All right, Kory. And finally, to get off the contender pretender piece, OTG just dropped their 50 top NBA players. You guys had Kawhi, LBJ, and Giannis going 1, 2, and 3. Give us the rationale. I think a lot of people are kind of accepting the narrative that Kawhi is the best player now. Give us your thoughts, kind of the rationale behind that pick.
Yeah, now, granted, I made the list with my buddy Jack Manuel. So when we made the list of criteria, which is important, I think, to give context, we based this list off what have you done lately, playoffs included, and what we anticipate you to do going forward. So our rationale was Kawhi Leonard is obviously coming off an NBA Finals run, NBA Finals MVP, dominating playoff performances throughout, even with a quad injury that he suffered late in the Eastern Conference Finals. Kawhi now, once again, in a very good defensive-minded basketball system in Los Angeles, has good offensive weapons around him. Entering the prime of his career, Kawhi is really at the almost, not I want to say the peak, because there's still levels he can take, but he's raising his dominance. LeBron's going to be great. We're going to see him more as a facilitator, which LeBron has always been more so of. People compare him to Jordan and Kobe, for example, but he's more so of a Magic Johnson, where this guy looks to get other people involved. He looks, he can score obviously at will, but he's more so of a high basketball IQ, get my teammates involved. And we're going to see a lot of that this year, I think. And then Antetokounmpo, he's obviously still rising. I think he's going to be the face of this league for many years to come. But I still think we're 1 or 2 years away from that truly happening, even though I do think he wins MVP again. But this is the rise of Giannis. I think Kawhi has almost already arrived, and we're still seeing LeBron, year 17. Eventually there is going to be a step back, but we think LeBron, regardless, deserves to be number 2. And obviously on this list, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson weren't included because of injuries.
All right. And finally, Kory, plug your stuff, my man. Where can people find you? Where can people find the great work of OTG?
Yeah, you can find me and all of my work at otgbasketball.com. You can check out the NBA Outlet, a podcast in which I co-host Nick Fay, or my personal podcast, Full Access Hoops, all on Apple Podcasts, Blog Talk Radio. And you can follow me on Twitter, as the guys have mentioned throughout this my time on the show currently, at KWallHoops with 1 L.
All right, Kory, appreciate your time tonight, my man. It's early. We'll definitely be talking to you a little later in the season. Take care, brother.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Kory Waldron. Our guy. Love the work over at OTG Basketball. Those guys are all extremely knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah.
And what I like is they do talk analytics, especially Nick. Nick's
Yeah.
Kind of an analytic
numbers
guy
guy.
too as well. But they don't. A lot of podcasts, some sites kind of bore you with, and kind of the matchup stats, the half court stats, and all this. But they don't do that. They kind of.
It's nice to be data driven, but not driven by data. If that makes sense.
Wow, Blake. You sound like
I should put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you sound like a Microsoft.
Cody, get to work
now. Really? Wow. With that, let's transition, Michael.
We're going back into Pretender Contender, right?
No, we're talking fantasy locks.
Ooh, okay.
All right, let's talk a little football, guys. Interesting week in fantasy football. We saw some trades, some wide receivers swapped. That's going to be interesting. We're going to have to talk about that. And we've got to get you prepped for the playoffs, and we've got a lot of people on bye weeks right now.
I'm sorry, I got to ask. What is with Cole Beasley and Jimmy? What is that?
It was
What
a
is going
segment on
that?
Jimmy Fallon.
This is all you call.
Yeah.
Or your call.
I love that gif. And plus, it's one of the only ones of Cole Beasley on the internet. at least in a Buffalo Bills
And you really
uniform.
want to get him in.
And
Okay.
actually, it's from his chest up, so I don't even know if he's in his Buffalo Bills uniform. But anyways, spoiler alert, that is my fantasy lock of the week. And on this segment, of course, we like to give you guys some waiver wire folks, not the obvious choices, if you will.
Not the Saquon Barkleys of the world.
Yeah, unless you're Mike and you usually give 2 choices. But, you know, spoiler, I only see 1 this week, so looking forward to that.
I could definitely throw another one in there. if
No,
you
that's
want.
okay. We're good. My lock this week.
Just no more Ryan Tannehill versus Mariota talk.
Hold up.
Please,
Hold up.
For the love of God.
Hold up.
He had a good game, though.
He had a great game,
Yeah, he
and
did.
I played
He
him
did.
over Uncle Phil, and he had a better game.
Wow.
So I was right.
I stand corrected.
I want to put that out there.
Wow. More points are kids for Uncle Phil this week.
More point. Oh,
I
I
think
hope
it was
more
close.
points. I hope more points.
I
I'm in a
think it was
2-quarterback league. I
close.
needed to be. I
Is
needed
it
to
an
be
away
more.
or home game? Is the wife traveling?
Yeah, right.
Does he
Someone's
get
got to
to
watch
sleep
those
in?
kids. Damn. Anyways, so my lock is Cole Beasley. So, and why am I picking him? You're going to say to yourself, oh, this is kind of a rough one here, fella. They're facing Philly. Philly is giving up 31.8 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. They've given up 11 TDs already, the most disappointing part of a rather disappointing team, one might say. He's only owned by 29% of owners in Yahoo groups. Not too surprising considering his week. He had his first TD last week, and he's projected to have his best game of the year. So if you're looking for someone, we got a lot of people in bye weeks right now. Cole Beasley might be a guy you can pick up on waivers right now and plug him in as well. And, you know, Foster's out, Robert Foster.
Yeah.
Duke Williams is kind of banged up
Yeah.
in Buffalo, so the cupboards are pretty bare, and he might be a guy that gets more action than usual, Mike.
Somebody's got to get the ball right.
Yeah, I thought you'd also say that's what she said. But anyways, you're up.
Nah, it's just the way it is.
Oh, my God.
Any speaking
You know,
of
Mike,
bye, I'm
I
gonna go.
did that
Speaking of
pick
bye week,
because
starting
you
to-
loved me.
Are you starting?
That's why I did
I was
that.
going to
Is
make a
that it?
Tupac reference, and you went there.
Wait,
Well,
you're going
there's
Tupac
a
from
theme.
Celine
You
Dion?
said that's just the way it is.
Oh, well, things will never be the same, especially once Mike gives his pick. Go ahead.
for my pick, I actually go back to the fact that there are several bye weeks. You got Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, both on bye weeks. Matt Ryan's banged up. Mahomes is actually all of a sudden just likely out.
He's going to be out.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be out, but they're
Why
trying to
rush
tell
that
everybody.
guy?
Yeah,
No.
I agree.
They're saying there's no timeline.
Yeah.
But I think
Which means there's a timeline.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Here's the timeline. When Matt Moore has a shitty game,
Yeah.
there's his timeline.
Which could be
Okay.
Sunday.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah. So with all those quarterbacks out or on bye, I think that you need to look at the quarterback position, and the person I'm really high on this week is actually Derek Carr, and the Oakland Viva Las Vegas Raiders. Right?
Heyo. Won't be long.
Yeah, they're playing Houston. They are the 6th best matchup for quarterbacks. Then they're actually following it up with Detroit, who's the 8th best, and then they play the Chargers, who have just been absolutely abysmal, honestly. They've just, I don't know what happened there, but anyways.
Yeah.
And then week 11, they go to Cincinnati, which is the 5th best for quarterbacks. So my thinking is you can pick him up on the bye week, and you could see how it goes and see how he does against these really favorable matchups. His floor is relatively high, actually. And I think we could actually see a few 20-plus games out of him at the quarterback position, so I really like him. Even against the Packers, which is they're the 27th ranked team for quarterbacks. Yeah. He was just shy of 16 points. And that's when he had an INT and he lost that fumble literally inches away from being a touchdown. Right. That's an 8-point swing.
Yeah.
So versus them, he could have had 24 points. So that's my fantasy luck. Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Oakland.
Had a huge week last week with Darren Waller, too, as well, the tight end.
Oh, you love that, right?
Really
You were all
that
about
saved
him in
me,
preseason.
And I really think, and I was talking about this earlier today, if they win Sunday, if they beat Houston, they're going to be buyers, and I expect them to go get a receiver.
I tell you what, man, I'll trade every
Who do you
pick I
think they
have,
can,
man.
Yeah.
I'll
AJ
trade my brother, man.
Well, we talked
He's
about
not doing anything.
we talked about it last week. AJ Green's a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you just saw 2 receivers move for, I mean, I think relatively good value.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a possibility he could have another weapon here in the next week because the trade deadline's 6 days from now.
Yeah.
So
I think they're buyers no matter what at this point.
I don't know about it. What are they? What's their record right now?
The Raiders?
The Raiders. Well, it's
pull up
Gruden. You never know what he's going
4
to
and
do.
I don't want to
3,
give you the
4 and 4.
inaccurate. I want to make sure they are 3-3.
3-3, 500. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
By the way, still
Right.
second
Yeah,
in
we'll
the AFC.
see. We'll see.
Hey,
AFC West.
we
Who's
got
your
somebody
luck?
calling you out, Iraq.
What do
boy,
we
here
got?
All
we
right,
go.
we got ex-CFL Bill said, "What's up?" And they said, "Go Buffalo." He's obviously
Ah,
I
my
hope
man.
he's a fan of Josh Allen then.
He
right?
is. He's actually. I actually have seen that person go through a table.
Oh wow!
He's a
Okay,
true.
I'm gonna nerd. I'm
Did
gonna
he take
nerd.
Yes,
a
let's
Did he
go.
take a bump? Did
I'm
he
gonna
take a
I'm
walk?
gonna nerd out for a minute. So we've actually talked about it before. I play in a Madden league, right? And when we did our team selections for this Madden that just came out, he announced his team by going through a table. That was
my
He did a
God.
video announcement of who he was taking, and he's a big Bills fan, and he went through a table.
I'm a fan of this guy.
Hopefully
We're
he
gonna be
gimmicked
friends.
that
Robert's-
table, cut it
Robert's
in the
awesome.
middle,
He's a good
WWE style.
Nah, he's a good dude.
All right, who's
All
your
right.
good dude this week,
So
brother?
so sticking with the waiver wire bye week pickup. So I lost Will Dissly last week, and I actually picked up this guy today that I'm going to talk about, Jimmy
Nice.
Graham, tight end from the Green Bay Packers.
I've heard of him.
So yeah, you may have heard of him. So surprised me to find out he's not owned in nearly 40% of ESPN.com leagues. So a little over half of leagues he's owned in. Rodgers is on fire right now. What did he throw? 5 touchdowns last week.
5 tutties, yeah.
5 touchdowns. They're playing the Chiefs this weekend. The Chiefs are 29th in average tight end receptions per game at nearly 7 catches a game.
Wow.
So a lot of catches. So a lot of targets, none, more than anything is one of the biggest reasons for me picking Graham here. But here's the other thing. If Devontae Adams doesn't play, and he hasn't in a couple weeks, I think that the Chiefs are going to try to limit the home run threats. So they're going to try to take away the Scantlings, the guys like that. Take away
Lizard, the lizard person.
The Lizard, yeah. But take away the home run threats, which is, if they get in the red zone, opens up a guy like Jimmy Graham. So
True.
as long as he plays Sunday, because he does have a questionable tag right now.
Right.
I swear he's been questionable since 2016.
Everybody's
right?
questionable at this point in the year. But if he plays Sunday, I really think he's going to have a big day, because if Adams, it really benefits him either way. If Adams doesn't play, they're just going to focus on home run threats. If Adams plays, you got to, delegate 2 guys to him as it is. So think he's in for a big day on Sunday. And I'm 2 for 2 right now on these fantasy locks.
That is true.
I want to go 3 for 3. So come
right.
on, Jimmy.
All right, guys. I mentioned it was an interesting week, and let's talk about a couple things that are kind of on the surface for fantasy owners.
Yeah.
First off, we know most leagues are going to start their playoffs here in week 13 or 14. Well, all by 14.
Right.
At what point do you guys start making moves and thinking more about the playoffs? And hopefully we're all going there.
Well,
in
I
this
think
league.
I think
On
need,
this table.
I need to ask a question first. How do you guys in your leagues, or you can just pick one? How do you guys do your waiver wire? Is it just order of standings?
Order of
See, we do a bidding system
Really?
in our leagues.
Okay.
You get
Explain.
You get $100 budget every year, and then if say you and I bid the same amount of money, it just goes to whoever's higher in the waiver priority. I've spent about half my money in all my leagues to this
Okay.
point. So I think it depends on what type of waiver wire system you have, and then obviously what kind of trade partners you can find.
Right.
Because in a league like mine, you may be pickup heavy for the next couple weeks rather than make trades. So it just depends, I think. But go ahead.
Right. No, I was going to say for me, this is a good time if you haven't already, and this is an interesting time in fantasy because you kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, and that a lot of people that have actually looked ahead in their schedule and looked at the matchups, who's coming up on buys, plotted out who they might want to pick up on waiver wire, who they can plug in from their bench. You start to see those teams start to win games, and not by your 69 to 55 margins, but continue to score above 100 points and be somewhat consistent. So
Sure.
I've already started, and that process is kind of plotting out, and I'll literally take a piece of paper and say who's coming up on buys, who's on waiver wire, who can I look, and who has the most favorable matchups coming up in weeks 13 through 17. So
Yeah. That's one of the things I look at when I draft is 15-16 matchups.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for like defenses and kickers more than anything.
Sure,
Like, if I'm looking at 2 defenses and, one plays the Chiefs and the Patriots 15-16, but the other one's maybe slightly not quite as good, but right there, I'm taking the other team
Yeah.
if they have better matchups.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like
For me, it's all about where I'm at, like we've been saying. So if I am struggling, I am all over the waiver wire. I am actually, it depends. Like, am I struggling because people are underperforming? They were unhealthy.
Yeah.
Or do I need to get, like, I'm on the opposite end in several leagues, where I actually am doing very well.
No
I'm
big
setting
deal.
myself up
Yeah,
for the
no
playoffs.
big deal.
So now I'm looking to turn a couple of my bench players who are doing well, contributing, who really aren't going to crack my lineup, to turn 2 or 3 of them into a stud. Give somebody who is maybe 2-4, 2-5, like, right at the bottom of the league, or not out of it, and they haven't lost every game, but they need to make something happen, and they need a few players. So I'll start turning that in, and it's exactly what you're saying. I'm starting to look at those back end weeks. I want to see, because now we know who teams are for the most part, right? Like at the start of the year, I was like, I really like the Chargers. I'm all over it. Now teams playing the Chargers at the end of the year might not be bad. They might start resting some guys, start playing some young people. So you're going to start looking at those things. But I am definitely looking at those favorable matchups, and now is absolutely the time to do it.
All right, Blake, we saw Mohamed Sanu and Emmanuel Sanders get moved this week, 2 wide receivers of fantasy value, certainly. Who do you think's in a better situation now? Who are you more bullish on?
Oh, I mean, I think the obvious choice is Mohamed Sanu, just because who's throwing him the football. Now, on the flip side of that, you could argue that Emmanuel Sanders is going to be more of the primary target in San Francisco. But, other than that Browns game, they haven't put up a ton of points.
No,
you know what I mean?
no.
They haven't, but neither have the Patriots in that regard. So, I mean, for me, I'm looking at Sanu, especially now that we just heard the news before we went on the air. Josh Gordon's done for the year, so that's just one less
Makes
target
more
for
sense
Brady.
why they made that move, right?
Yeah,
That's a calculated move.
especially spending a second on him. So, I think Sanu's in has a better chance to flourish. I'll put it to you this way: I think the floor is much higher for Sanu, but the ceilings are probably about equal.
Sure. For Emmanuel Sanders, if you own him, you're probably like, no, he's not in a worse situation.
I wouldn't say he's in a better situation.
Well,
I
he's
think it's
going to a
better.
team with that actually drop back for passes only 30 times during a game right now. The most run-heavy team in San Francisco.
Well, it's because they have one of the better defenses too.
Well, I'm excited to see what comes about this for him
Yeah,
with
that's a good
Emmanuel
point.
Sanders. So hopefully he's just another parameter, another layer, if you will, to that offense that
Well,
can
you
open
mentioned
things
Kittle.
up.
Kittle leads their team with 34 receptions. You know the next guy?
Samuel?
No, it's
Yeah.
going to be Is it really?
It's Debo Samuel
Debo!
at 14 receptions. There's a
Wow.
20. There is a huge.
I was
going
to
to
say one of the running backs, but that makes sense.
Breda's next. He's tied with
Is he?
11
Okay.
with Goodwin.
Okay, that's
So that's where
what I figured.
That's where I think Sanders, a veteran,
Right.
absolutely. I think he's an elite wide receiver, and I think he's going to come in there and they're going to be in positive. He might not be.
I don't know
Julio.
about elite.
He's not Julio. He's not. But he is. I think he's at least above average,
Yeah.
In your top, what top is he in? Top?
like skill wise.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I think he's 10 to 15 range.
No,
Is that
Wow.
no?
I don't know. I think
about all the
I think
number
I can
ones
name
out
15. I think I can name 15 receivers better than him right now.
Well, Mike, I didn't think he was elite, but it's all
do you think
coming
it'll-
back to me
He's
now.
good. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
wow.
He's good, but elite is something I reserve for the.
Okay, so I maybe not elite,
The
but above
Julios
average,
and
very
the-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's going into a system that is going to people are going to stop the run. They're going to be in, like you were saying, favorable field position because of how good that defense is.
Sure.
And that's where I really like him.
Yeah,
he's
he's
going to
good.
be getting at least a red zone target or so a game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's where I really like him as well.
Well, no matter what, you got to applaud the guy. He must have tiger blood or something coming back from a Achilles injury like he has. So
yeah.
good
Yeah.
for him. And two, Blake, we can't excuse the fact that Mike called touchdowns tutties.
oh yeah, you
Can
never
we-
heard tutties?
Nah, I
Just
don't
like
know
it?
if we need to use that.
Just look at that sweater. Are you kidding me?
right.
Won't you guys come be his?
Yeah,
neighbor?
metrosexual Mr. Rogers in the house.
Really?
Anyways,
I like Mr. Rogers. I'll
I
take
do
that as a
too.
compliment.
Well, you can be my neighbor, Mike, and you can transition to hell no hill. Yeah,
Let's
right now.
go.
That has a very fog hat sound to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I can hear some fog hat. in
Yeah,
that.
man. Need a couple more of these to drink to that kind of music.
Yeah, this is delicious. Check them out at Saucy Brew Works. Mike, let's talk a little baseball, my man. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You look
I
like
am
a
ready.
deer in the headlights.
Yeah,
My
really.
goodness.
He's like, we are?
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, I'm ready, man.
So
What
the
is
Yanks,
baseball?
Right. So the Yanks lost to the Astros in the ACLS in epic fashion over the weekend. And despite having the second highest payroll in the game of baseball over the last 10 seasons, have not been in a World Series in a decade, guys. Mike, hell no, hell yeah. Are the Yankees the biggest underachievers of the past decade?
Give me a hell yeah.
What? I want to hear this.
So here's the thing. If you can buy your way into the playoffs, you at least have to make it to one World Series in this last decade, is my opinion.
Okay.
Now, did they screw up with the A-Rod contract way back?
Sure.
Probably hampered them in some way.
That makes sense.
To me, like, you're a franchise worth $4.6 billion.
Right.
Was it the second or the third it's like the top.
In a league with no salary cap?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a league. And you can't make the World Series. To me, that is an underachiever.
Do you think some of the stigmas rubbed off being a Yankee with today's athlete? You know, the whole not having a beard and the whole being very cut and dry. Like, you know what I mean? Not to say that it's a bad thing, but do you think that has an effect on it? I mean, free agents not going there? I mean, like, well, let's look at Machado and, Harper, for example.
I mean,
San Diego and Philly?
Yeah, it's a tough media city.
Right.
So do you want to just be under that eye all the time? And honestly, though, if those other cities are going to offer you that much money,
I'd much rather
San
go to San
Diego's
Diego.
a pretty beautiful place. Yeah, and you're
But
playing
Philly,
baseball.
though. But Philly, on the other hand.
I think we've talked about how, like, we don't want to watch baseball at opening day. I mean, I love opening day, but, like, it sucks. It's snowing.
Oh, here in Cleveland, it's miserable.
New York's
yeah.
the same, right? I'd go to San Diego any day. So that's where I think that may affect them.
Yeah.
And I think the money in those other cities. But I still think being a Yankee is a pretty big deal. You got Babe Ruth, you got Lou Gehrig.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Sure,
I think
sure,
the tradition
there's
speaks
value.
for itself.
Absolutely.
I guess my thing is just
That is not what we wanted. Sorry, guys.
just the
I just hit like 4 buttons at once.
That's all right.
the social norms that you have to cross off the list to be a Yankee, I guess, is what my question.
It is true.
You're not allowed to be a real vocal player in media. You know what I mean? You're not. I mean,
Yep.
do you think just with today's athlete that has an effect? Because today's athlete's much different than it was even 10 years ago.
It could, yeah. They
Yeah.
want to be boisterous, but that's the Yankees regime. The younger Steinbrenner generation. That's they continue to kind of run, not with as much of an iron fist, one might say,
Right.
but they're a little bit more responsible. Brian Cashman has a budget as their GM, and unlike the past, he actually sticks to it to an extent and doesn't stretch as much as they used to.
Did I read the stat right? That's the first decade since the 1910s, was it? Or 1920s?
Yeah,
Okay.
since the
That they
20s.
haven't been to a World Series.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is
It's
crazy.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard something shocking on a podcast earlier this week. They said that the new face of the Yankees, and this will kind of tell you kind of how disappointing some of the current stars are. Nick Swisher is the new face of the Yankees. Yeah.
Brohio?
They
The governor of
paraded him.
Brohio?
They paraded him out for a first pitch. He's been doing a lot of PR there.
Nick Swisher?
Nick Swisher. So,
Think how excited that guy's about
That
life. Is that
can't-
the reason? Like,
yeah.
That can't be. With
He's
guys
just
like
fired
Judge-
up, bro.
Guys like Judge on the team, that's
Yeah.
that's a bad look. I mean, nothing against Swish. I love Nick Swisher.
I do
but,
too, but
the face of the Yankees, he haven't played in how long? One, he hasn't been a Yankee for how long? And two, he's been out of baseball, 3-4 years?
yeah.
All right, Blake, let's talk football, brother. So last
it.
week we talked about, and we all agreed really at the time, Russell Wilson was the MVP of the NFL's midseason point. Well, Aaron Rodgers then kind of reminded us who the hell he was last week. Rodgers posted a perfect QB rating of 158.3. He went 25 of 31 for 429 yards and 5 touchdowns. Blake, hell no, hell yeah. Do you want to backpedal and name Aaron Rodgers the MVP of the season thus far?
Hell yeah.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Dude, you better watch the backpedal on that ankle first off, brother.
Right? I don't know that I'm crowning him an MVP just yet, but he certainly made a case to be in the conversation at the very least. So I don't think you can take it away from Russell Wilson because of one game. And I think Baltimore, and this is coming from a Seahawks fan, Baltimore came in with a great game plan for that game. It was phenomenal. So, but in reality, it's a 3-horse race right now. It's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and I'm even going to throw this guy in there, Christian McCaffrey. So between those three, I think it's theirs to lose between the three of them. So whatever happens between the midpoint of the season and the end is really going to be the determining factor between which one of those three it is. But as of right now, yeah, he's got to be the favorite in the clubhouse.
Wow. I'm impressed that you were able to
I went away from the homer
aside.
take. I
No.
did. I
Well, I didn't think it was that much of a homer take, but I'm just saying it's a week removed. You're willing to step. I
think,
respect that.
I think any of the three of those guys I just mentioned are justified right now. Any of the three. It always ends up going to, quarterbacks always get kind of the benefit of the doubt, but I think it can be I wouldn't be disappointed if it's any of those three guys.
All right.
All right.
Fair enough.
All right, Jay.
What's up, Mike?
We got another week, another upset in college football.
Woo.
As this week's 30.5-point favorite, Wisconsin, went down to Illinois. This certainly, to me, it puts a huge damper on this Buckeyes matchup this week.
Yeah.
Minnesota is the only team that's undefeated in the Big Ten West. Jay, hell no, hell yeah. Is an undefeated Big Ten team the conference chance to get in a team in the playoffs?
Hell yeah. At this point, yeah. Absolutely. So,
I'll give you double of those. Yeah.
Freak out. Anyways, this totally deflated me. I can tell you.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to
Drained my hype.
and we still want to talk about this game because
Right.
it is very important, at least for one team. But I was looking at this matchup between Ohio State and Wisconsin this coming Saturday.
Battle of the Titans.
Is a battle of the Titans, maybe the best college football matchup of the year,
So
quite
far.
frankly. And this blew it for me. In my opinion, this is worse than Georgia's double overtime loss to South Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, they came in at 30.5-point favorites here. As Mike said in the question, the West is, you still have, who is it? Minnesota undefeated.
Right.
But their strength of schedule was absolutely awful.
And they have the game in the bag.
And they did have the game in the bag. So I think Ohio State is and will win out.
Yeah.
And they are, at this point, the conference's best hope for a playoff team. And I think they will be one. But very disappointing. Very
Let
disappointing.
me throw this scenario out to
Yeah.
you. They beat Ohio State twice. Do they have an argument to get in?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah.
agree. I was just seeing
Yeah.
what you thought, but I agree.
I think at that point, it's just going to come down to the eye test, right? Ohio State does pass the eye test.
Right.
If you beat them twice,
Yeah.
it's going to be, it's going to be two hard-fought, close games,
Right.
in my opinion. So,
Yeah. Guys, I want to throw this one out to you as kind of a group here, because a lot of other things. It was a big week in sports here.
Sure.
The Eagles really got embarrassed Sunday by the Cowboys and now find themselves 3-4. We know Doug Peterson did win a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and yes, he did make it through the playoffs, the second round last week, but to call them a disappointment this week is an understatement. Is it crazy to think that Doug Peterson might be on the hot seat going into next season?
Going in next season or as of right now? I don't think so. I mean, they've been dealing with a bunch of injuries on defense. They've been a playoff team since he got there. I mean, this year, no. Now, if they're in the same spot next year,
Yeah.
yeah, because I compare him to like a Dan Quinn right now, and I'd be surprised if Dan Quinn's still employed this time next week because they're on their bye week. But
I would do it now. Give your
nah,
interim
do it on the
coach-
bye week.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the bye week. Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
Sorry about
get
that.
him through
Yeah.
Sunday. But yeah, I compare him to like a Dan Quinn, and I'm like, these guys are two different, and not even on the same planet.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
and Dan Quinn still has a job. So, as of right now. But yeah, I don't foresee or I don't think there's any reason he should be on the hot seat. Should there be pause for concern? Sure.
Absolutely.
But on the hot seat, no.
No, especially he was playing with Big Dick Nick, who's his backup quarterback.
Oh, wow. We haven't heard that one in a
Yeah,
while.
we got a
I
big-
like
I brought
it.
it
Yeah,
back.
bring it
Yeah,
brought it
back.
back.
BDN right now. Let's go.
Let's talk about another quarterback, not to stick on the underachieving category, but we are. It's been 3 years, guys, with the Mitchell Trubisky era in Chicago, and he just really hasn't progressed at all.
No.
His contract is through 2021. Is it time for the Bears to start thinking about a new quarterback in Chicago?
Yeah.
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 That
Yeah.
defense is incredible, and in my opinion, with how little he has progressed, you're just wasting it.
Yeah.
Well, you're not only are you wasting just the mileage, but you're grinding that defense down.
Yeah.
You're putting them back against the wall, drive after drive. I forget what the stat was, and I forget which show I was listening to, but the defensive time on the field was just unreal. You're gonna kill those guys. I mean, you got to be able to move the ball at least a little bit, but they're not even doing that.
I'll try to pull it
So-
up for us.
Yeah, you got to consider, guys, we're not that far off from Rex Grossman leading the Bears to a Super Bowl. And you think back of the long line of underachieving Bears quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
You go from Cowboy Cal Orton, Rex Grossman,
Jay Cutler.
McMahon was a part of a very prolific team, and that's why he was revered.
Who did they have between Cutler and wasn't it Mike Glennon? Didn't they bring Mike Glennon in? He was going to be like the guy for 2-3 years.
Haney was there.
Yep.
Yeah, Haney was there.
Their defense on average is playing 3 minutes more a game than the other.
Oh.
Didn't they sign?
Their
Didn't they
defense, yeah.
sign Mike Glennon, draft Trubisky, and then cut Mike Glennon?
Yeah.
Mike Glenn plays for me now, man. He's down in Oakland. He's gonna go to Vegas with me. I like to keep
Is he
5
in Oakland
quarterbacks on staff, man. 5 of them.
Him and Brian.
Fill the whole QB room.
Him and Brian
man.
Hoyer. I can't keep track.
Anyways, guys, let's talk about what's on deck next week. Michael, give me a transition, brother. It's funny, guy. We were just talking contender pretender because it is week 9 in the NCAA, and I've dubbed this contender pretender weekend. And why is that? This is a chance for some contenders to flat out prove it here this week. We've got some interesting matchups. One, of course, we addressed earlier, and we're going to talk about it here: Ohio State versus Wisconsin. We've got number 9 Auburn at LSU. That is going to be fun. Auburn hasn't won at Death Valley since Cole Kubelik played there.
Ooh.
Our guy. Then we've got Notre Dame traveling to Michigan too as well. But the game we're going to focus on is Wisconsin, number 13 now, so a 7-spot drop in the AP. Ugh. At Ohio State, number 3. This is a noon game, surprisingly, on Fox at Columbus. OSU, 14-point favorites. Not surprising there. Thoughts on the initial line? Maybe even
It's a pinch high, I feel like.
It is a little pinch high. This is still a great defense. Anyways, Ohio State's just a scarlet and gray freight train right now, guys. And they've won 5 games by 40-plus points. Justin Fields is putting up Heisman-like numbers. He accounted for 5 touchdowns in their 52-3 wallop of Northwestern on Thursday night. And the defense is just as good. They've held opponents, the last 6 of them, as a matter of fact, to 35 points. Unbelievable. Less than 6 points a game. Wisconsin, I think they suffered from the classic look-ahead game last week, guys, and they got caught. They lost 24-23 on a last-minute field goal to Illinois. Again, they are favored by 30.5 points. The Badgers even had a 9-point lead with 9 minutes and 49 seconds to go in that game and blew it. Ugh.
Killer.
Blake, how does Ohio State win this game?
Well, first and foremost, do not get caught sleeping. I think one of my guys on Star Wars said it best. It's a trap.
That'd be Admiral Akbar.
Admiral Akbar?
Yeah, it's a trap.
This is a trap game if I've ever seen one. So don't get caught sleeping is my biggest thing. Wisconsin's going to come out and they're going to play pissed off, right? So you have to match that intensity on both sides of the ball. You can't let that emotion fuel them to something, a bounce back.
Right.
So, continue to do what you do best. We just mentioned it. 6 opponents, 35 points. Play great defense. I would argue this defense is better than the 2014 defense.
Yeah.
I really would.
I agree with you.
And the other thing, too, on the offensive side of the ball, I think there's more weapons. I think in Justin Fields' ability to distribute to those weapons is the difference. So, prediction, I think
Pain.
It's
been a while.
It's been a really long time since you referenced that.
But I think that line's a bit high. I think the Buckeyes win, and I think it's a comfortable win. But I as in they're up by this much and have the ball to end the game.
Yeah.
I don't see Wisconsin I see Wisconsin covering the 14, but I still see a Buckeyes win.
Okay, so like 10 points, you think? Something
Yeah,
comfortable like
yeah.
that? All right, Mike. How's Wisconsin going to compete in this game? And give me your final prediction.
Oh,
Pain.
It's I think they need to pray for rain, wind, sleet, and
Oh
some
my
sloppy
God,
turnovers by the
yeah?
Buckeyes. No, I think they need to make it a fight. I think they need to make it an extremely physical game. And honestly, this is the best time to get over a disappointing midseason loss. Go into arguably the best team in the country, go into their house and beat them. they'll be right back in the mix. They'll be right back in the conversation. It'll bring the Big Ten back into the forefront. So I think they need to do that. In order to do that, they need to be old school Wisconsin right here. Go back, Barry Alvarez, like just pound the ball out. And you know who it is? It's going to rely on Jonathan Taylor tailback and Jack Cohn.
Wow.
Jack Cohn is 81%, has an 81% completion rate against AP top 25 teams. The problem with it is 0 touchdowns.
Right.
He is going to have to make some big plays, take some shots down the field, and manufacture some big plays. You may see a couple tricks here. You may see a flea flicker. You may see a fake reverse or something like that with a pass, and they need to. Honestly, Cohn's got to get him in the end zone. He really does. If not, they are just going to be in a lot of trouble, I think. I think for them to win, the score needs to be down by 30, like the over and like the line, like that would be the total points, like 20-10 somehow, and a lot of turnovers. I mean, the Wisconsin defense has really done their part the last several games prior to their loss, but none of those teams were Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I actually take Ohio State 45-30.
Do you think it's one of those situations where Wisconsin shouldn't overreact and just do what you do best? Do what you do. You got slipped up last week. Figure out what specifically led to that. But in terms of changing an entire game plan, I think it's an overreaction to do that at this point.
I agree.
Right?
I think they stick to who they are,
Right.
pound the ball, and then just have a couple wrinkles.
Yeah.
A couple things.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
They do
Yep.
have to make some turnovers. They really need to
Right.
get the ball out of
Yeah,
the
you
Ohio
gotta-
State. Stop them from getting him into a rhythm.
Sure.
Yep. And convert some third downs. That was their biggest thing. They just couldn't sustain drives late in that game, and it
Not at
really
all.
came back to bite them. All right, guys, let's talk NFL. We
Yes,
are
sir.
talking Week 8. I've dubbed this "Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover" week because the bookends to this week are absolute shit. Tomorrow night, we've got Washington visiting Minnesota. Probably a revenge game for Kirk Cousins, who's on a roll out of nowhere.
Was almost my
man.
fantasy
that?
lock this week.
And then the back end of this is Miami at Pittsburgh on Monday. Not Monday night. It's Monday night.
What a bad game that's going to be.
Yeah. So
picked
thank
up-
you, NFL.
I picked up Benny Snell.
Yeah, that's
Do
a
you
great
think it's
option.
worth playing?
Yeah, so he's going to get a lot of carries. I think Pittsburgh will get
Benny
out to
Snell.
a lead. They'll continue to do a lot of screen passes, a lot of short pass routes. So yeah, that's a good pickup. A lot of people picked him up this week in fantasy.
Makes sense.
But the game I want to focus on here, guys, are the Packers visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the Sunday night game at 8:20 p.m. on NBC. They are at Kansas City. Green Bay favored by 4.5. So the visitor favored by 4.5. The over-under here is 48. You know that's going to be in jeopardy when these two teams play. Green Bay is 6-1. They're first in the NFC North. They've won their last 3. And over this 3-game stretch, they're averaging 33 points, 317 yards in the air. Aaron Rodgers is on a tear. Their offense is 8th in total yards right now, and he's doing it with guys like Allen Lazard and Valdez Scantling. The defense is given up the 5th most yards of all defenses, so you can tell my man Aaron Rodgers is doing his work. Kansas City, we talked about it. Patrick Mahomes they're kind of making it seem week to week, but we think at least 2 weeks, possibly a little bit more.
Yeah.
It was said that he could be back in, quote, under 3 games. We don't know what that means exactly, but journeyman QB Matt Moore comes in. And, the good thing is here, they don't have to be perfect over this stretch, right? He was pretty good versus the Broncos. He was 10-19 and had 1 TD. I think Kansas City does have a shot in this game, and here's why. They've got to have a next man up type mentality, right? Spread the
Did you say
ball around.
mentality?
Mentality,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank
mentality.
you
I
for
like
picking
this.
up with that, brother.
Sounds like a good Saucy Brew Works beer name.
It does.
Man.
Yeah,
mentality.
check them out at Saucy Brew Works on Twitter. 8 players caught balls versus the Broncos, guys. And on defense, they really stepped up last week. They held Phillip Lindsay, a guy that everyone predicted to have a great week. They held him to 36 yards on 11 carries.
Yeah.
So good on them. They sacked Flacco 8 times, so much that the backup QB came in eventually.
Ismal.
God, did he
was-
look old.
He looked old, and the offensive line was terrible.
He's
Yes,
looked old
they
for
were.
years.
I didn't think he was that bad. like I'd watched him. I was like, there's some hope. No, there's no. I'm out.
But I do think at the end of it, Green Bay wins in a close one here, guys. Something like 31-28. They take care of that over, under, and, KC does cover, but it's going to be a close-fought, hard win for Green Bay. What about you, Blake? Thoughts on how the Green Bay Packers win this one, and give me a final prediction.
The first thing, give Rodgers some good field position to work with. I mentioned it earlier in my fantasy lock. If you can get them into the red zone, create some opportunities there, I think they're in for a big day. The other thing is you can't allow the running game for Kansas City to get hot. You can't allow Matt Moore to get any more comfortable. You can't allow him. You can't let him beat you. So don't let the running game get hot. Give him some more time. Let things open up in the passing game. Again, I mentioned it earlier. Utilize the tight end. Kansas City 29th in tight end receptions. So utilize the tight end. Find those holes. Rodgers has been on fire. So I don't see this. Unfortunately for Chiefs fans, I don't see this being close. Yeah. I really don't. I think Green Bay covers and covers big.
Wow.
So
okay.
I predict like a 28-10, 28-13.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
So
that is interesting. And always interesting is our new segment, Closing Arguments. Michael, give me a transition, my friend. All right, gentlemen, may it please the court, it is time for closing arguments. My first witness, attorney Mr. Beats, do you have any closing arguments?
I'm actually very content with the world of sports, so the defense rests its case.
The defense rests this week. Blake, I'll turn the court over to you. Please give us your closing arguments, counselor.
I've been waiting for this one all week.
Wow. Okay.
I've been waiting. I've been teasing it on Twitter. There's a certain AFC North fan base that they need to buckle up.
Oh, snap.
So, gentlemen, the team...
Take that, Bengals.
The fan base that I am dropping the gavel on this week, hashtag drop the gavel, are a certain group, a small percentage, not the whole fan base, but a certain group of Cleveland Browns fans.
Wow, okay.
So, there are a number of you, again, not all, not even a majority, that have become Cleveland Browns fans, that have become so insufferable over the last 6 weeks, and I would even argue since the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. You're ruining it for the good Browns fans out there. You're giving the Browns fan base a bad name. I know the Browns fan base very well. I worked with them in a small capacity for a year. Browns fans deserve better than what you're doing right now. What I've been seeing, a lot of people on Twitter, Facebook, seen it on comments on the website, bitching and complaining that the Seattle Seahawks didn't beat the Ravens, and that's what's harming their position in the division race.
Wow.
Let me be perfectly clear here. Those of you that have watched this program long enough or followed my work on Big Play, or you know my loyalties lie with the Seahawks. That said, Browns have kind of always been my B team. We're here in Cleveland, Ohio, recording the show, what, guys, about 10 minutes from the stadium?
Yeah.
15 minutes from the stadium?
Yeah.
So right on here
Not
on the
far
west
enough,
side.
according to you.
Yeah. I'm a Cleveland guy, right? Other than the Seahawks thing. So, and again, we can get into this story another time, but not a Browns fan because they weren't around when I started watching football.
Sure.
But that said, there have been so many unpleasant and insufferable folks on social media the last 6 weeks that I find myself, guys, close to rooting against the Browns at this point. It's almost getting on Dallas Cowboy, New York Yankee levels.
Oh, shit.
way.
It is. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It is. It simply is. You're 2-4 for a reason, none of which involves the teams that your division rivals play. So if I have to see one more person bitch and complain about a team not beating the Ravens, when you're at 2-4, your quarterback looks like a shell of himself, and your coach looks like he's in over his head, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. The Browns fans that are doing this, and again, all Browns fans, let me be perfectly clear, but the guys that are doing this, you guys need to wake up. Freddie Kitchens, while I still believe in him and I think he can improve, has been abysmal. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. He's been terrible. Same goes for Baker. Baker, while I still think when he's on his game is a top 10 quarterback in this league, I truly believe that, he's been terrible. So the fact remains, take a strong look in the mirror because your problems are your own and your own only. So, don't sit there and try to blame others for being in this position. That's a loser's mentality is what it is. That's old Cleveland Browns. Again, coming from somebody that loves the Browns, being my B team, that's a loser's mentality that this town needed to get rid of at the end of last season, when things started turning around. So don't let that continue. If you're letting that continue, you're already battle in my mind. Lost the division, you're not making the playoffs. You might as well just cash it in now and get ready for the Cavs' abysmal season.
Ooh.
So, but again, Browns fans, those of you I'm speaking to, not all you, just please be better than this.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, this, again, coming from a guy that cares about the Browns and cares about the fan base, and what I don't want to see happen is the rest of the country and the national media, who are already lapping this up as it is, right?
Yeah, they're enjoying
They're
this.
already just guys like Colin Cowherd are just sitting there rubbing their hands together maniacally every Sunday waiting on something to happen. Quit giving them a reason to be like that. Quit making excuses for a team that, frankly, you've been reading press clippings about for the last year and how they'll be the greatest show on turf. And, pardon my French, they've shit down their leg.
Oh, wow.
So-
Okay.
So, again, not speaking to all Browns fans. I want to make that perfectly clear. Or even most Browns fans. It's a minority group. You're going to turn the Browns from America's most hated in one season if you keep doing this.
And, folks, you will not be finding Blake on the Big Play Cleveland show Monday nights at 9
No,
p.m.
I think they should bring him in.
No, don't get me
He's
wrong.
done
I
it.
love the Browns. I love everything they're doing, but and again, it's a very small group of people, but those are the ones I'm speaking to specifically because I have a lot of good Browns followers on Instagram and Twitter and stuff.
Sure.
And you guys know who you are. I interact with you all the time, and we talk Browns, and everything's great. And I think the Browns are a good team. I still think the Browns make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
But stop it with this team didn't beat that team, and we're not going to get in. That mind your own business, basically, is what I'm saying.
They're not winning because Baker got married, didn't he, guys? And he's gained a little weight, so that's why they're not winning.
No, I think the Browns
of
are a
people.
great team, but you can't blame the Seahawks for not beating the Ravens and them being ahead of you.
Yeah. Okay, guys. All right.
FYI, we had. I think it's fair. I told
I was
him
curious the Browns
I
fans'
wanted
response.
to. I
Very
wanted
fair.
to hear it. I am an open Browns fan,
You're one of the good ones.
but I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I think we have to take our losses.
Take responsibility for it.
Take responsibility.
And honestly,
That's
the thing
right,
is,
Blake.
I think I had a
Accountability.
pretty level head going into the season. The first 6 games of the year,
Right.
that is a horrible schedule.
7 even.
7, yeah. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Don't forget the
If you
Patriots,
include the
right?
Patriots.
Don't forget the
Because that's
best team in the NFL.
Because that's the other thing. You're running into that buzzsaw this weekend, so you might be 2-5 before we have our next show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then it gets easier. So
It does, and like I said, I still think this
be
team finishes
realistic.
10-6.
All right. Well, guys, may I approach the bench?
You may,
here,
sir.
counselors.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Major League Baseball, I want to talk to you specifically. When I turn on the NFL on Sundays, I know what's going to happen. Good or bad, win or lose, there are going to be entertaining games. Even if the week is not as good as 2 weeks ago, we saw a very soft lineup. The NFL is stable. The NBA is exciting. MLB, you're too much of both, quite frankly. 2019 was the good and bad of baseball, and frankly, you've lost me. Here are some of the records that occurred during 2019, and I dubbed them kind of good things. 4 teams had 100 wins. That would be the Astros, Yankees, Twins, and Dodgers. The Twins had 307 home runs. The Yankees had 306. Both are records, guys. There were 6,776 homers hit in all. That's 671 more than the record in 2017. Here's the bad. 4 teams had 100 losses. That would be the Orioles, the Tigers, the Marlins, and the Royals. There were 42,823 strikeouts, gentlemen. And this is all happening over the longest average game time in the history of the MLB. Games were 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 35 seconds. And why are they so long? Because we're seeing a record number of pitchers. 4.41 pitchers appeared per game per team last year. And plate appearances were longer. Batters saw 3.93 pitches per plate appearance. Well, what does that do? Frankly, it loses fans. Average attendance was 28,198 per game. This is the lowest since 2003. Baseball, you had me as a kid. You may gain me when my kid starts to take up the game. But for now, I'm out. I hope you're not out on the great lineup that is the Big Play family. Let's run through it here, guys. Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we've got Blitz Football. Our guys from Seattle reviewing the week that was in the NFL. A lot of fun satire and takes going on there. The Big Play Cleveland show comes at you 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday nights. Birdland BS on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Wednesday nights, you know who we are. We're the Big Play Podcast here every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Thursday nights, we've got Big Play Gaming. Our buddy Mike McFadden, 8 to 10 p.m. talking all playing things gaming. Apex even had Big Play Beats on a couple weeks ago. That was pretty fun. Check out our sponsor, Saucy Brew Works. Follow them on Twitter at Saucy Brew Works. Follow them on Facebook at Saucy Brew Works, CLE. Follow the Big Play Podcast at the Big Play Podcast. Hit that notification sign on the top of our account so you're notified when we go live.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Follow BigPlay_.com. Excuse me, just com. That's where all of our great articles and all of our shows go out on a week-to-week basis. For myself, find me on Twitter at BigPlayJ. The gentleman to my left, Big Play Blake, at BigPlay_Blake. At Big Play Beats, the gentleman to my right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see ya.
Do you guys want to do a little after hours?
It's late.
He needs to go to bed.
Wow. All right. See you next week.